Live from Darfeasy Studios in Eddyville, Kentucky, it's time for a new episode of the Darfeasy Show podcast network with Darfeasy Reviews. This is where I take a movie and completely do a spoiler review on it. So, sit back, relax, enjoy some Hamilton music, and listen to me talk about it. Now your host, Darfeasy. Hello, Easy Nation, and welcome to another new podcast. This is called Darfeasy Reviews. This is so I do movie reviews on my main YouTube channel on the Darfeasy. I just did a review of Hamilton. I rewatched it this week because I've enjoyed the play's music for years, and to finally see the original cast on the TV screen was just a great thrill to watch. And I wanted to watch it again, and when I was watching it, I was like, why don't I do a podcast where I completely do a spoiler review of the movie? And this could be a new idea for I've been thinking of other podcasts I'm doing. If you haven't been listening, I've been doing my Darfeasy TV recap, where I break down the week of TV. I also have my Game Corner. This is kind of the sense of my Game Corner episode. So if you've been listening to one of those podcasts, and it's going to run very similar to my Game Corner. Basically, once I watch a movie, I'll do a complete and utter spoiler review on it. And yeah, so in this one, I don't have to have a certain schedule. I think before, when I did my other podcast, Darfeasy's Movie Anatomy, I put a lot of my pressure on myself to make sure I had an episode every week. And that's a lot of work on me. I mean, I just want to do it whenever I'm done with a certain movie. So, and if I even feel like doing it, I may not even want to do a podcast on every movie I ever see, but this is for the ones that I need to do podcasts on. So this is what this is. This is Darfeasy Movie Reviews. I hope y'all enjoy. And like I said before, this is completely and utter spoiler. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click away right now and check out Hamilton, because it's worth watching. And so yeah, let's get right into it. So Hamilton, it's based off, it is the recording of the play back in 2016 of the original cast doing Hamilton. And I love this show. I really do. And a lot has to do with a lot of things for me. Is I just recently reread my thesis paper for college. My last year of college, I went to Murray State. I had a history, my last history class, which you have to write a 15-page thesis paper on a certain time of American history. So for me, I just had to pick a right time of point to write about, and I've always been fascinated about American parties. I love the party system, from the Democrats to the Republicans. I took it back all the way back to 1800s, and I read all about the Federalist Party and how the Federalist Party, you look into it, the Federalist Party was the most dominant party at the time. George Washington wasn't a Federalist, but he had a lot of Federalist ideas. My whole paper, the idea of my paper, was the decline of the Federalist Party, how it was dominant, but how there were so many cracks in the party, and how eventually it just fell apart. And so I did a lot of my research on this, and one of the books I read was Rob Chernow's Alexander Hamilton, which was the same book which inspired Lin-Manuel Miranda to write his crazy hip-hop album play about Hamilton, about Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton turned into a hip-hop album. So I've read a lot of the sources so I knew a lot about Alexander Hamilton way before I listened to the music, way before any of this. So, I'm not one of those people who said, I didn't know who Alexander Hamilton was. I was one of the people who supported taking Andrew Jackson off the $20 bill instead of taking Hamilton off the $10 bill, because Hamilton's one of our greatest founding fathers. The man who wrote many of the Federalist Papers, to the one who him and James Madison argued, and their debates over the Constitution. Was Hamilton's influence on the Constitution is tremendous. And then his influences on the Treasury, which a lot of the influences are still to this day. Without Hamilton, our country probably wouldn't be here to this day. I truly believe that, because he got America with his financial system, with the banks, got America out of debt before the War of 1812, which got us out of debt before the War of 1812. We were still in debt to the Dutch and other people we would have not been able to get money because our military was completely defenseless during the War of 1812, and that's why it took so many years to beat the British again. And without Hamilton, though, we probably would not have been able to get, because we would still own all this debt. So I think Hamilton is one of the most important people in history. The play on its own, the story is incredible. Like, I mean, that's a story you can't make up, and it's because it actually happened. It's Hamilton. The whole story of Hamilton. He's an immigrant. He comes from the Caribbeans. He comes to New York City, and his whole mindset is, I either want to be in a war, or I need to be in a war. I need to either to die heroically, or in order to get out of my station, to make a name for myself. And that's why in that song, my shot, I don't want to throw away my shot. I want to become something important. I want to help lead this country into I want to lead this new country into something. And I think the music is just done incredible by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And that's the thing about the play. I think when I was watching it, I was like, Lin-Manuel Miranda, could be also, a lot of people have been criticizing his performance in this movie, and I can see their point of view, because everyone around him is so good. And maybe it's not one of those things where the ensemble cast is so good. I mean, everyone in this film steals the show. Everyone in this, Leslie Odom Jr., I think, is completely the best performance. Him and Davon Diggs, maybe, are probably some of my favorite performances in the movie. But it is Hamilton's story, and he does have that character. Like I said, I don't think he's the best person. I don't think he's the best character in this show, but it's the one you follow around, and I do enjoy his music in this film. And I like how he even he shows that arrogance that I think Hamilton actually did have. So I think he did play the character perfectly right. I just don't think he's the best part of the show. But I love how the show goes into, you can listen to the music and just enjoy the music, but there's a lot of subtext to it. Like the birth of the party system, the Federalist Party, and the Jeffersonian Republicans, or the Democratic Republicans, as the play calls them. And I like how the show goes into the rivalry between it. I like hearing a lot about Hamilton's involvement in the Revolutionary War, because I didn't know a lot about that before I listened to the music and then did my research, because I didn't really study a lot about Hamilton in the war. But I did a lot of that. I do find very, very interesting. And then how the story between him and Eliza, and that's why the show is called Hamilton. The women in this show are great. Elizabeth Scott, whenever the Schuyler sisters show up, that song, it's great. The Schuyler sisters, and I mean, you hear Angelica, part of that song. She said, "We hold our truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And when I meet Thomas Jefferson, I'm going to compel him to write the sequel work." And it's just, you have these strong female characters. And one of the criticisms of the show is that the women characters are kind of written off. No, I mean, the show is called Hamilton. And the story is not just about Alexander Hamilton. At the end of the story, when you're hearing the stuff from Eliza Schuyler, how she helped preserve Hamilton's memory by helping organizing all of his writing, because he was a man who wrote like he was running out of time. And Hamilton wrote so much. I mean, in the song Nonstop, whenever he wrote the Federalist Papers with James Madison and John Jay wrote 5. James Madison wrote 29. Hamilton wrote the other 51. I mean, this guy wrote so much. He just wrote so much. He wrote his way out of his poverty. It's just an incredible thing about the guy. And I'm not saying, and I like how the show even goes into more where he wasn't a perfect human being. And that's the thing about our founding fathers, is our founding fathers, they're not perfect people. We hold these people on a pedestal that they are the great people. And do I think our founding fathers would probably be ashamed of what our country is today? Most likely. But our founding fathers were not saints. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, James Madison, they owned slaves. They did not free their slaves. And George Washington freed the slaves at the end of his life, whenever he died. But while he was alive, he did not free slaves. Jefferson, I mean, we've heard so much stories of the last 10, 15 years about how he slept with his slaves, how he fathered so many children. Jefferson, none of these people were saints, but they were people who built on these idealistic beliefs that you can have all these beliefs, but always have a downfall character a part of you. Hamilton, he cheated on his wife with this one girl. He got caught. He paid the fine and kept doing it for a couple more months. After that, the Hamilton is not like none of these characters are saints, and that's why I think this show does an incredible job of doing. And another criticism of the show I've been hearing about is the show does not mention slavery at all. And you think we hear a few references from the cabinet battle with Hamilton and Jefferson, and Hamilton's friend whenever John Lawrence, where he wants to build the first black battalion of freed slaves, and how he wants to try to end slavery. I just don't believe that's what the show is about. I know it's you would think it would be with the black cast and the African American cast, but I just do not believe that's what the show is all about. That is an issue that Hamilton did fight with after him and George Washington were professional relationship was over with, but he didn't want to mention slavery because that was his meal tickets. And it is an issue worth discussing, but I just don't think that's what the show is about. And like I said, it just, for me, it's a lot about idealistic people talking about these ideas. And like I said, they're not perfect. They're not perfect, and I think this show does a great job at depicting early America. I love early American history. The politics of American history between this period and all the way up to the Civil War, I've always found some of the most fascinating moments of history. It's some of my three favorite times of history. It's this period along with the Roman history, and I love Japanese history. But this is probably some of my favorite parts of history. And like I said, I know a lot about it because I did my research on it. I love this part of history, and I think it does such a good job. Yeah, and then like I said, some other standout performances like Jonathan Groff. I mean, he is he's Kristoff from Frozen. And his song "You'll Be Back" as the British King. It's funny that the white guy, the only white guys in the film who has a main singing role, steals the show. His King George III is incredible. Like, they perform whenever he's singing, and he goes, "No, don't change the subject!" And it's like spits coming out of his mouth. Just incredible. Others, like I said, Davy Diggs' songs. I like how the movie has, or the soundtrack has, multiple different kind of musical styles. It's not just hip hop. Is it 70% hip hop? Absolutely. But it also has some other styles of music. From the King George song, it's very British invasion, kind of like, Beatles kind of style music, to the other style like jazz. When the first Thomas Jefferson song is a complete another. It's like jazz, as he's been away for so many years, and that's the music he's so used to, and that's how he's doing. It's like, what did I miss? What did I miss? And then like some of the other songs, like with Philip Sue's "Helpless," it feels like a pop song to me. Like, it feels like a Beyonce or like a Madonna or some kind of song like that. So I just, like I said, guys, this show is great. And like I said in my other review of this, Hamilton is just, the story's great, the music's great, the performances are great. And like I said, Lin-Manuel Miranda is not the greatest person as Hamilton, because I've always heard other people say that other people have played Hamilton better. But he does play that arrogance pretty well. And I almost forgot about him. Leslie Odom Jr. completely steals. He is my favorite part of the show. Like the way his acting is, the smile and everything. The first thing I knew Leslie Odom Jr. in was Person of Interest. He plays the villain in season 3, I believe, and he plays a character in that. And that was my first thing into it. And then when I heard about him, and then I've seen him in other things like Murder on the Orient Express and Harriet, he was in his songs. And I like how the relationship between Hamilton and Burr is so fascinating because they believe in the same things. It's just their approach at the things are completely different. Hamilton is, I'm going nonstop. I'm going to get what I want. I'm not throwing away my shot. Burr's like, he's like, smile more, talk less. Don't let people know what you're for or what you're against. And it just, as the show goes along, though, towards the end, Hamilton becomes more like Burr, where he's waiting for it. He doesn't want the limelight like he did when he was younger. He wants to rebuild that relationship with Eliza, take a break. It's quiet uptown. But then Burr, he wants to be in the room where it happened. He saw Hamilton completely steal the banks by just giving them the capital, because it doesn't matter where the capital is, because we'll have the banks. We have the power here. And Burr's like, I want to be in the room where it happens. So as the show goes along, Burr becomes more like Hamilton, and Hamilton becomes more like Burr. And then that duel, the 10 duel commandments, and then, it's cool. One of the cool things about Burr and Hamilton duel is the oath of office for Kentucky is a lot due to the duel between Hamilton and Burr. And it's still in Kentucky's oath of office. The oath of office is Kentucky, and I have never been in a duel, nor have I been second to a duel. And it's still in our oath of office today, and I pray to God it's never changed. Henry Clay defended Aaron Burr in, I believe, in this trial or a trial. So that's kind of a very interesting thing about Aaron Burr. Because if you want to read an interesting history after Hamilton, kind of like a sequel, look into the history of Aaron Burr after the duel of Hamilton. It snaps for him. He tries to secede the western states like Kentucky, Louisiana from Spain and France, and become kind of an emperor. It's kind of insane to hear that this actually happened. So I think. And I love how at the end where Burr even says, "Now I'm the villain in your history. I was too young and blind to see. The world was wide enough for both Hamilton and me." Burr regretted killing Hamilton. He never says he did, but he regrets killing him because it completely destroyed his life. So guys, that is my complete spoiler thoughts on Hamilton. If you want a show kind of like Hamilton, watch John Adams. It's set in the same time period where it's Paul Giamatti, it's John Adams. He does a good job, and it is about the same time period of this show, and it's the only other thing very similar to this show that I can think of. And I just enjoyed this time of history. I hope y'all enjoyed this first new podcast called Darth Easy Reviews. It was a good episode to start us on. So guys, I hope y'all enjoyed it. And guys, make sure you check out my other podcasts. I have all kinds of podcasts now. I got Darth Easy's TV Recap, where I break down weeks of TV. I also have my new podcast, Darth Easy's Top 10. This will be a monthly show where I talk about a random top 10 centered around a movie. I'm hoping maybe if Tenet or Milan comes out, I'll probably do something similar to that next month if they actually come out, because holding my breath, really, to be honest with you at this point. And also check out my Game Corner, where I break down video games. So guys, until the next podcast, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out, guys. Bye. All too easy.